people have done that, and then he went back to back. You know, so it's like,
well, Jokic has 2 MVPs. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if you just compare their accolades, Jokic has 2 MVPs to Hakeem's 1. Jokic has 3 All-NBA first teams to Hakeem's 6. All-NBA teams, Hakeem has 7 more. And yeah, he hasn't beaten all the other defensive team stats. He was a blocks leader, rebounds leader.
Hakeem's one of the best defenders of all time.
I understand. You know, and I'm not saying I'm taking Jokic,
no, I get what you mean.
But I'm saying
that's
that
why I asked you.
Jokic can get to Hakeem. I believe that can happen one day.
The resumes couldn't be comparable one day for sure.
Especially if Jokic wins this championship, the voter fatigue doesn't exist anymore. If he has another season where he averages a triple-double and the Nuggets are the first seed, he can win another MVP.
Yep.
You know, so I think that this season, Embiid deserved it. And I'm not saying he didn't deserve it because he did, and I'm happy that he won the MVP. But I think people are going to look back on this season and say, you probably should have given it to Jokic.
For sure.
But it's just the lack of playoff success and the narrative late for Jokic. It just everything went against him, and it kind of was given to Embiid in that aspect.
Nikola Jokic is different. He's different, but there's no way that you can't entertain it yet. One day we'll be able to sit here and have a strong conversation, but right now you can't entertain it. Tim Duncan right now, for sure.
They
could have picked.
You could pick Charles Barkley, threw him in there, some shit like
I
that.
think Will is higher than Hakeem.
No, I'm saying outside like Will, like these guys are the best ever. You know.
You know, I stumbled across a TikTok the other day we were having a Jokic versus Wilt debate, and you took Jokic.
I said the Joker was a better offensive player than Wilt.
For sure he is.
I think Hakeem is also a better offensive player than Wilt. I really just cannot get with the...
You got to stop.
No,
you got to stop.
Listen. Respect to Wilt. I respect the Pioneers, and I put them in a separate list.
Remember, bro, they changed the rules because of him.
And I put them in a separate list from the players that started in like the 70s and 80s. It was just a different NBA that you cannot compare to this NBA. You just can't. Like, there was 8 teams.
He could dunk from the free throw line.
They was blocking shit at the rim. Like, they didn't have threes. Like, it was just too many rules. It was too many rules. Bro, the next big was like 6'8", bro. Like, it was too many rules. So, I don't compare. I take Wilt and Bill off my list. I don't even put, like, they're just pioneers of the game. Jerry West, I don't do that shit.
So, if Jokic wins this NBA championship, he's obviously going to move up into exclusive company.
Sure.
It's crazy, man, like, how much a championship's going to boost him up, considering he has 2 MVPs already, because not many players have 2 MVPs in the first place.
And just the way that you can have this conversation is look at the conversation that we had when Giannis won his first championship. It was, is he the second best power forward of all time already? Is he on the trajectory of being better than Tim Duncan? So just imagine at this point in his time, in his career,
there.
Yeah.
No, people don't understand how far Tim is.
He is so
he's
so beyond anyone else.
Yeah.
But when talking about Nikola Jokic, you mentioned it already when we had our little discussion on the start bench cut. 2 MVPs. He is right now. He has potential, or is on his way to securing a Finals and a Finals MVP. Has the Magic Johnson MVP award. We can't forget that.
Can never forget the first.
That's
guy.
in legacies. Hey, Steph Curry. See, that's right. You're welcome.
You're
welcome. Hey, there you go.
There you go. We here.
So just to be able to accomplish this young, 28 years old, correct? And the fact that this team has youth on its side, so long as it stays healthy, because that's been a huge question, the Nuggets can be a team to be dangerous for a long time. And Nikola Jokic at the head of the table, it could get very, very interesting, the conversation that we'll have in Nikola Jokic all time.
So, like, all right, so I've been on Twitter, dibbling and dabbling. You guys know Hoop Venue on Twitter? Yeah, so me and him had a conversation 3 weeks ago about it. It was like, it was a picture of Embiid, Dwight, and the Joker. And he was like, the Joker and Embiid are levels above Dwight. And I was like,
levels.
I was like, Dwight and Embiid, I think, are a conversation. I think you're overvaluing offense in certain aspects. And I bring that up because we talk about the Joker. He possibly could win a ring, Finals MVP. Kareem is like Tim Duncan. They are above and beyond in their position. So you're not going to catch Kareem. You're not going to catch Tim Duncan. But other guys like Shaq, like Hakeem, like maybe he passes David Robinson.
Can he pass Shaq?
No, I'm just saying guys that are
obtainable,
but very, very, very far.
But do you think Shaq's obtainable?
He is, but it's like a 10% chance. Like it's really, really low.
Okay,
but like
all
Kareem is
right,
like 0.
I
That's
can
what
entertain that. I can have this conversation.
Shaq and Kareem are very similar.
That's why I say that.
I think Kareem is ahead of Shaq.
He is, but I view the two of them together.
Okay,
I feel
Hakeem.
Yeah, I'm saying Hakeem and Shaq are similar. Like I think it's a low chance, but I think he can get there. And I brought it up because centers now and centers back in the day are completely different. So it's really about just what you value more. Do you value a two-way center? Because most centers in the 90s, in the 80s, Mark Eaton, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm blanking on a few. Oh, Moses Malone. Like, they are two-way centers. Like, they were great on the defensive end. They were great scorers, but they weren't playmakers. That was the point guard's job. So what do you value more? A uber elite, different dynamic offensive center who's a good defender but not an elite defender that can't man down the defense, or a post up back to the basket big man who can just anchor a defense? And that's really like the conversation. That's why me and him was having that conversation. It was like, Dwight, I would take over Embiid because I feel like he went to the finals and that you can build around him better because he will anchor the defense and he's not a slouch.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? And you can put shooters around him. He had a good post up. It wasn't no 28 a game or 33 a game.
Dwight's name gets disrespected more than it should.
Especially in the last month
I think
or so,
Will Chamberlain, the reason why I disrespect him is because he played in an inflated era where the pace was so high that there were so many offensive possessions, and that's why he averaged so many points and rebounds per game. But was
anyone even close to 55 in the league?
They have done stats like that evened out the paces for eras. And if you take into account what he did in that era and you like basically put context into it, in this era that's basically like 20 and 15, you know what I'm saying?
55?
20 points.
Wait, isn't this era inflated too though?
Well, 27 and like 15, you know? Like
this era was inflated also.
Like if you take into account the pace and the possessions and all that stuff, like Thinking Basketball made a video about it, about how Wilt's stats were inflated. And also, because we didn't see Wilt, we don't understand what happened at that time. He was a 4-time MVP. He only won one NBA championship.
Okay, let's not do that because the Boston Celtics were OD.
And every single time he faced Boston, Bill Russell outplayed him severely. And Bill Russell, you look at the counting stats, you might say Wilt Chamberlain's over Bill Russell. Whenever they matched up, Bill Russell was better. Right. And it wasn't because he was averaging more points. It was because he rebounded better, he defended better, he passed better. Wilt Chamberlain was a horrible teammate by all accounts. Like if you look back on those archives of how they talked about him in the media, he was known as a jock, as a ball hog, as a bad teammate. And that's why he only had one NBA championship, because in all those seasons, he just never was a good teammate. He just always was hunting for his shots, and that was a common criticism that he had in that era.
Was it one or two?
He has one championship.
So he won it in his last year?
I think because Jerry got one, right?
Jerry has one, yeah.
Because I remember...
Will has two. I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought so.
He has one Finals MVP.
I thought so because I remember. I think he broke his hand, but still was able to play. I think they ended up winning. That was his last year, and then that was it.
It was definitely in his later years when he got to LA.
Because you guys last won your championship in '73, correct?
Because he won one with Philadelphia and he won one with the Lakers
in '72.
Yeah, and when he won with the Lakers, he averaged 15 points and 21 rebounds, so he was
very calm.
A lot, yeah. But
is Jokic over Giannis if he wins a ring? I think that because the all-time players are so hard for me. Jokic is 28, like he might win 2 more rings. This Nuggets core is locked up. Everyone except Bruce Brown, I think, for next season. So they're gonna be right back here. He's gonna be in contention for MVP. We know that. So it's hard for me to say what does Jokic's next 7 years look like. But I think for the current players outside of Bron and Curry, it's like what player is kind of in KD facts is like in that stratosphere that Jokic, Giannis is like you mentioned because he had just won the ring. He had the MVP. So I think that's probably the tier he's in.
Catch KD.
I think he'd catch KD too. Yeah.
And also
another chip.
This is important to note. And this I read this from Reddit. I think
he's past Kawhi with the championship in my opinion. Because he has the 2 MVPs.
That's not,
I don't think that's crazy. I think that's true. Valid. I mean, I have Jokic's top 20 all time if he wins the championship for me.
Yeah.
Top 20.
I'd put him over Dirk Nowitzki. I think he's over Dirk if he wins his championship.
You put him over KG?
There's definitely an argument to be over KG for sure.
I don't think there's an argument.
There's defensive teams for KG for sure, but you have the 2 MVPs that Jokic has. And KG winning an NBA Finals.
He has a DPOY and an MVP.
And winning a championship as the man when you didn't have to go and build a super team, that matters. Not to mention, Paul Pierce was the Finals MVP.
KG got robbed, but I get it. I get it.
So this is a Reddit post from...
Is Giannis top 20?
Yeah.
I would, yeah. I
Okay,
think
all right.
yeah.
Then
I
I'm
think
fine with your
Giannis can
statement.
be there. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of it. I would have both of them top 25 for sure.
Agreed.
I did a top 10 centers list that I could share in a bit.
Okay.
But this is I'm gonna disrespect Wilt Chamberlain a lot.
Why though?
Because you're gonna hear what I'm gonna say.
I just don't understand.
My top centers of all time. These are my top centers of all time. If Jokic wins a championship, number 1's Kareem.
Agreed.
Number 2's Bill Russell.
Okay.
Number 3's Hakeem. Number 4 is Shaq. Number 5, I have Moses Malone.
Okay.
He was also a 2-time MVP, multiple NBA champion. Number 6 is where I'd slot Nikola Jokic. I have Wilt Chamberlain at 7, and it's the reason why. In his era, he scored 30 points per game in the regular season. In the postseason, he dropped down to 22 points per game. He had a near 8-point per game drop-off from the regular season to the postseason, and if you account for pace and how they played back then and you contextualize it, which you can do by measuring their per 100 possession numbers, in this era, he would average 26 points per game when you contextualize the numbers, and in the playoffs, it would be 19 points per game when you contextualize it and you measure all the pace statistics and all that. So Wilt Chamberlain in that era with the multitude of possessions, you had so many more possessions than now, he averaged 50 and 25. But in this era, when you contextualize it, he's at 26 a game in the regular season and 19 in the postseason. So that's why I have Wilt so down. And also, he only won 2 NBA championships, and one of them came in the later years with the Lakers when he only averaged 15 points, and he wasn't one of the top players at the time.
I am pretty sure he broke his hand in that series too.
And number 8, I have David Robinson. Number 9 is Patrick Ewing, and number 10 I have Bob McAdoo. But I think Jokic is number 6. He's right behind Moses Malone.
Bill Walton doesn't make your top 10?
He had too short of a prime or career.
All
If
right.
he had a longer career, then I'd put him over one of these guys. His definitely peak for peak. He's over Patrick Ewing, I think, and probably David Robinson, because the knock on Robinson is that he wasn't able to win until Tim Duncan got drafted.
He also came in the league late.
He was labeled as a playoff choker, and that's something that Wilt Chamberlain also at the time was labeled as a playoff choker when he got to the postseason.
Is Joel Embiid, Dwight Howard over any of those guys 8 through 10?
No,
Okay.
not Joel Embiid. No,
Okay.
I think Dwight Howard is over Joel Embiid for me all time.
Yep. Okay.
And Dwight Howard maybe could make this list, but I wouldn't, like, when we're talking about just accolades, I wouldn't put him over anybody.
Okay.
You know, I think
That was for conversation purposes. Okay.
no, I wouldn't put him over anybody.